Hello, welcome to Game 5 of the match Minionpawn versus Kubu. Kubu is first player here. If they win the match. If Minionpawn gets a tie or a win, then they win the match. So, what are we looking at here? Villages, contract, native village. Contract's going to be decent in terms of island folk. Island folk lets you take another turn. That's pretty sweet. I think gear blockade makes a lot of sense to me. There's no trashing, so you kind of want to set some stuff aside with native village if you can. You also want to try to play contract on gear at the start of turn, set stuff aside with gear. So you want to get a bunch of native villages and gears and blockades probably, and then dungeons for reliability, and then you have contract and horn of plenty. And you probably play with one relic, but the one relic is kind of a win more card. I think if you take a horn, you're in equally good shape. The 4/3, the blockade stuff does favor player one, being able to blockade first. Player one can blockade another gear, potentially first. But they can also just blockade a dungeon or a secret passage or something. And you do want to probably play with a messenger. Delay is going to be quite nice as a village. I didn't mention delay specifically as a village, but delay is for sure a village with messenger. So you play the messenger, and then you can delay a gear, delay a whatever action you have. You can also play contract to delay something. Contract is essentially equivalent to delay, except it's slightly different. But blockade gear seems pretty obvious open to me, and if your opponent blockades gear or blockades, you can grab the one that your opponent doesn't have. And I assume this will be second gear. Makes the most sense to me. Expedition also doesn't seem crazy here. If you really want to get 5 quickly, but I think I'm not quite sure. Minionpawn is going to get the native village as well. Okay. Yeah, now that you have a native village, I think you're blockading gear into this shuffle. I would consider blockading gear and then messengering something. Can you messenger them a blockade? Set aside when another player gains a copy of it on their turn. So you cannot messenger to give curses. Good to know. I think blockading another gear here. You have the native village already, so you're gonna have 2 terminals in the deck, 2 gears, and then grab a contract. Contract seems okay. I think maybe horn's gonna accelerate you faster though. As we saw in the previous game, the players don't have a lot of faith in horn. But we shall see. So this is an interesting spot. You can put an estate back on top and know that you can gear it aside, but I think I'm putting the estate all the way on the bottom. And yeah, this is quite nice. Well, it's not actually, because you're drawing it. If you had one more card in deck, you could Secret Passage Native Village. Secret Passage Native Village, by the way, is a little bit of we'll call it a minor combo. Another contract, another horn, another blockade. Messengering for gears. I kind of like messengering for 2 gears. I guess your opponent has more villages than you, but I'm not that concerned about that. You can also messenger for 2 villages. The messenger gives you the plus buy to do delay stuff. Your bottom 5 cards, I believe, has some decent stuff in it. Well, yeah, I think you play contract on native village here rather than play native village to trigger the shuffle. And then you buy messenger for 2 gears. I think it makes the most sense to me again. Nice draw here by Kubu. Kubu seems to have accelerated out the gate a little bit faster. The contract is not a very good acceleration card. messengering for blockades. I'm not really seeing what Minionpawn is doing. I'm not really understanding what they're doing. Kubu's more clear. You gain a bunch of blockades, a bunch of gears, you native villages, then you get Horn of Plenties and gain more Horn of Plenties, and then do a big Horn of Plenty mega turn. You can kind of, because you have the Horn of Plenty gain and all the extra draw, you can kind of just always sit aside with native village and then wait to pick up until your mega turn. Minionpawn's been a little bit unlucky with the contracts not finding actions to play, but they don't have a ton of actions to play, to be honest, and they don't have a ton of actions in play, to be honest, so I'm not quite sure. They've also been gaining secret passages, which I think I would have just gotten more gears. Especially if you're playing with contract, you don't really have terminal collision problems. You just gear, set aside the extra terminals, and then play them the next turn with your contracts. And we're only seeing 4 uniques here. Oh no, there's 5 uniques here for Kubu, and I assume you just keep clicking on Horn of Plenty, Village, Gear. I don't understand the contract there for Kubu. Like, Horn of Plenty just seems like a much better card. Like, Kubu should be winning the game in 3 more turns. Like, Kubu should be gaining 8 provinces in 3 turns. And 3 turns from now, gaining 8 provinces. So the contract is going to let them take an extra turn 4 turns from now. But in the Horn of Plenty mega turn, they've already piled out the provinces. So for Minionpawn, this is pretty clear. Horn of Plenty. Yeah, this is, it is what it is. You can pick up here, but I think I just set aside with the native village and then gain 2 horns. Be pretty okay with that. You could also discard. Oh, you can discard the native village, right? That makes more sense. Gain a gear, gain 2 horns. I really just want to cram as many horns as I can to the deck. Gears don't seem terrible either, but more horns seems better. Okay, so Minionpawn can top deck this estate now, which is nice. Kubu does not seem to believe in the Horns of Plenty. They seem like fine cards to me. And we're seeing the problem that Minionpawn has is they have these contracts. They don't really have the action density necessary to make the contracts work. Like, they're playing all of their terminals every turn. So, like, I really thought a Horn of Plenty made sense over almost all of these contracts. Minionpawn is going to get a free turn here, I guess. So that part at least is nice. But I feel like the value of their average turn is so much lower that the full extra turn doesn't make up for it. And again, I think I'm just clicking on more horns here. And Expedition makes sense. Okay, so Minionpawn does get an extra turn here. They're able to set aside an estate. And we can see how they want to play this, because they have all the options available with delay, contract stuff. I think you probably contract the messenger and play the blockade naturally. I was thinking contract the messenger and buy. I guess you have 2 buys and 10 money, so you can buy a couple of horns. Okay. Yeah, so I'm slowly understanding what Minionpawn is about here. And Kubu's gonna need to find some native villages here. I think you stop here as Kubu and set aside 2 gears. Set aside 1 gear, actually. You should contract a gear for sure. Contracting a gear has to be better than what they just did, than setting it aside. It just has to be. Because they could have set aside another copper and then bought that expedition too. And then they've got a gear coming into play with no terminal. I mean, I guess the contract is out of play. But okay, so again, seeing we can top deck a copper and set it aside, and Kubu has 3 bad cards and 2 good cards on their mat. Minionpawn has 3 bad cards. So Minionpawn's going to actually have all of their estates on the mat now with the Secret Passive Native Village. I don't think it's. I still think Kubu's quite a bit ahead. I don't think, like I said, it's a very minor combo. It just doesn't seem that worth it to me what they're doing. More gears. So I think Minionpawn has a ton of terminal space that they're not using, and they've not been using consistently. Kubu is somehow tighter on terminal space, even though they have a lot more villages. And I think that's just something that you have to pay attention to in this kind of kingdom, the balance between terminals and villages and draw cards and stuff. And I think Kubu they're both slightly imbalanced in different ways. Minionpawn certainly is imbalanced in having too many villages and not enough draw. Kubu, I think, is more balanced, but maybe Kubu's deck is fairly well balanced. I think they've missed some spots to contract things, but maybe they deliberately avoided that in order to get an Island Folk turn. I mean, playing 5 contracts in order to get an extra turn, whereas like my 5 Horn of Plenty plays would give me 5 action cards. And if you think about it, how many turns are you gaining? How many cards are you gaining your Island Folk turn? The answer is not 5. Then the 5 Horn of Plenty plays is better. So the only way contract is better is if you're really, really using the money, which it doesn't seem like we are, or that's at most 1 extra gain per turn with the 2 coins, or if you're using it to delay and give you a bunch of village effects. So like Kubu could have a duration gear coming into, or a non-duration gear coming into play here. Honestly, as Minionpawn, I would take gear Horn of Plenty here and know that the game is getting close to ending. We need more draw and hopefully get 2 more turns and like next turn contract some stuff. The number of times Minionpawn has played contract and not set aside an action is slightly depressing. Yeah, I mean, Minionpawn in that theory can gain cards next turn and then have an Island Folk turn to win the turn after that. So I think that's what Kubu needs to be afraid of here. But we'll see what Kubu has the Native Village set aside. So Kubu's going to be able to draw deck this turn. And maybe gear some contract some stuff. But they're not going to be able to take an Island Folk turn. So there's a question of, do they need to gain like a couple of provinces this turn? Are they going to do like 2 Native Village set asides and then I guess you draw a couple times with gear first, perhaps? I'm not sure why we're not playing the gears. I think you just have to max set aside here. There's too much bad stuff in the deck. And discards 2 coppers, then Native Village pick up, then gear. You've got a contract now, so you can try contracting the gear if you want, but they don't. They set aside a dungeon. So Kubu's going to kick off next turn. The question is, will they get a next turn? Horn of Plenty, gear, and Native Village are all low piles. Minionpawn has a lot of Horn of Plenties now. It's not immediately obvious to me what you gain. Getting their blockade is interesting. Contract. Wow. I didn't see that coming at all. They forgot to play their horns. Yeah, that happens sometimes. The client is weird like that. So Kubu's saying, I'm going to get another turn next turn, and I'm going to have an Island Folk turn after that, and then I'm going to win that turn on that Island Folk turn. So Minionpawn's got to be thinking, can I win on my current turn, or my Island Folk turn? So they have to get one more. They have to get one more contract into play, and then they have to gain Horn of Plenty, 2 gears, 3 native villages, duchy. That seems imminently doable. Here. We just have to find the find the other contract, which we do. Okay, so yeah, we can set aside a copper. So this is already 4 gains here, and I'm assuming we're like in a contract. So there's 5 gains in it. There's 4 gains in hands. We can gain Horn of Plenty and 3 native villages this turn. I don't think you set anything aside with this gear. I think you contract the well, I think you contract the native village and the messenger here. And then you gain Horn of Plenty and 3 native villages. Oh, we have 4. Sorry, the UI has updated now. We have 4. So this is 6 gains in hand. So we are almost there. I think you contract the 2 actions, and then you gain Horn of Plenty, 3 native villages, and buy Expedition, and then you should win pretty trivially on your Island Folk turn. Minionpawn's thinking, is there a cleaner line? Yeah, they could have done things slightly differently, but I like Horn of Plenty and 3 native villages, and then double Expedition maybe. I think I like double Expedition. You've got a lot of junk out of the deck, and you can always pick up to get the extra coppers at the beginning of next turn. Double Expedition makes the most sense to me. Your deck is easily capable of gaining the number of cards that you can gain. They're gaining the gears. I'm not wild about that. And they're... what just happened? Okay, it's a win either way. I am confused by what Minionpawn just did, but this works. I think the line I said with the double Expedition not getting the gears was more reliable, but that's a win for Minionpawn. So Minionpawn has won this match and will advance to the finals to face me. So congrats to Minionpawn and good run by Kubu. Tight match. I didn't know what was going on in a lot of the games, so we'll hopefully when I play Minionpawn, I'll have some idea what's going on. Thank you all for listening.